Okay. So this is in the previous volume 18. I didn't bring that to the table, but the Chazar is in there. Again, the beautiful one of the there's many beautiful parts of the Sefer, but one of the beautiful parts of the Sefer is that after every year, in short summary, everything that you learned in this year. So we had Borer, and which is selecting. Okay, and we said that in the malach of Borer, which is either it's a daraita. Usually, there's no real derabbanans by bar. It's either it's daraita issue that you cannot do, or you can do it in a way that it's mutter. Okay, what's the way that it's mutter? It has to have three conditions. Okay, and the three conditions are known as miyad, biyad, and so those are the three conditions. That means you have to do it miyad, which is right away. You have to do it biyad, it has to be done without a keli. That's meyuchad for bara. And it has to be ochel mitoch. So now the derabbanan part of bara would be if you would use a keli that could be used for bara, but it's not designated as a kli bara. Right? The Gemara gave an example, like using a flat plate or a basket. You can select with it, but it's not used for selection. So that will not be a doraita bar. That will be a derabbanan. It's pater of alasser. Okay, so how did we define miyad, the altar, for right away? What's considered right away usage? So what's the definition? Half hour before Seuda. Half hour before the Seuda, that is, everyone agrees to that. That's no question. At a max for Sfardim, how much time can we use? 1 hour. For Ashkenazim, how much time can they get? According to Rav Moshe, according to Rabbi and Rav Moshe?
As long as it takes.
Right. So however long it would take to prepare for that Suda, and that means including non-borer issues, right? From setting the tablecloth, putting out whatever else, all that time can be used. There was even a Rav Orbach that said that if I needed to do borer hours in advance to put an onion in something so it gets the flavor in or out, whatever it is, he says that would also be considered a miyad. Okay, but you guys said right, for Sfardim, it's a half hour. Up to now. What happens if I don't even need a half hour? I just need 5 minutes. Can I use up to a half hour? No. Then it has to be 5 minutes, right? And miyad has to be immediately before the Suda. So that means there's no, I'm going to prepare for the Suda and then lay down on the couch. Or I'm going to prepare for the Suda and then take a stroll. Well, you cannot do that. And that's not considered miyad. But if I can prepare the Suda and I know, as the woman, I know that I have to feed the baby, that's still considered miyad.
No, we're gonna read soon.
Okay. That's still considered miyad. Avram, you can put yourself on mute. Go. Thank you. Okay. So that was miyad. The other question, the other issue that we dealt with was the Ben Ish Chai. The Ben Ish Chai says, what happens if I have guests and I want to bring a full bowl of whatever the food is, and I know that full bowl is not going to be eaten right now. There's only 5 guests, and I'm bringing out food that's for 25 people. Can I do that? I wanna. It's not respectful to take out 5 pieces of whatever it is. I want to take out a nice full platter. So the Ben Ish Chai said that would be fine, and that will be considered a now necessity to bring out a full platter. However, Chamabaji said that it was all from the Ben Ish Chai's svara. It's his logic, and there's no proof for it. And since borer is the malacha d'oraita, it should not be done. So Chamabaji held that you cannot do that. You would have to actually bring out what can be used. That was miyad. What was the next condition? The next condition was biyad. It has to be done with it has to be done with the hand. Now, what is the definition of a hand? And what would be now a definition of a keli? Okay, so the real question is, what is the status of silverware? Okay, cutlery, the stuff that we use to eat in civilized societies. We use a fork, spoon, and knife. Okay, is that considered my hand or is that considered a keli? We saw that there was two Mishnah Bruras. One Mishnah Brura says you cannot use a spoon to separate. And we had one Mishnah Brura that said that you could use a spoon. And Rav Moshe wanted to understand this, or Moshe Feinstein wanted to understand this, Rav Moshe, that it depends on the usage of how you're using the spoon. Meaning, if you're just using the spoon because you don't want your hand to get dirty and you can't eat the food without a spoon, like a soup or whatever it is, you need that spoon, it's considered an extension of your arm. But if you're using it to select, the same exact spoon is used for selection, then it's going to be considered a kli bar. All right. Then we had the opinion of the Orchot Shabbat, and he says it really depends where in the stage of the food preparation we are. Meaning, if you're using a spoon in the processing of the food, then it's considered a kli bar. If you're using the spoon to get to eat it, right, even if you're selecting, so to speak, it's still derech achila, and it's not considered a keli for bar. Okay, so that was the two opinions. Chamavadia was under the opinion that the natural function of a spoon is considered your extended arm. Okay, perhaps he's not arguing with the Orchot Shabbat and saying that if you use it in the processing time, maybe it would be considered a kli bar. Maybe that's what he's saying also. But again, overall, using a spoon to eat is just eating. It can't be considered a kli bar. Rav Moshe Feinstein says how you're using the keli, how you're using the spoon. Well, so the Mishnah Brura that says you cannot use a spoon, he's using the spoon dafka to select. That's why you can't use a spoon. The Mishnah Brura that says you could use a spoon, he's eating it. He's just eating. He's eating, and it's happening that it's happening, but it's not his intention, right? It's really his intention of what he's doing with the spoon. Okay. The Orchot Shabbat was, when are we using the spoon? So the Mishnah Brura that says that you can't use a spoon is talking about when it's still in the processing stage. The Mishnah Brura that says you could use a spoon, that's when you're up to eating already. Okay, so it's the when versus the usage, on two ways to understand the two Mishnah Bruot. Okay, then we talked about the salt shaker, right? And that was really the idea that we saw. What's considered what when we're pouring out? Is what we're taking out is what's left, or what we, how do you look at when you're pouring something? What are you removing from what? All right, and we saw there were two opinions that it's either way, and we said we have to be l'chumra, right? We always have to worry that it's either way, and so you have to be careful when taking one from the other. We saw that, but we saw, what about the salt shaker? If the guy leaves grains of rice, so the rice is being left back. So Chamavadia said that a salt shaker is not considered a kli for borer at all. All what a salt shaker is, it is a flow meter. It kind of slows down the salt of how it comes out and regulates the flow of the salt. Right. So what? He says it's not a kli bar, so who cares if the rice is there? It's not doing. You never been doing bar. There's no intention of bar there. There's nothing there. It's not considered a kli bar. It's not like something that I use for keli to the bar. It's not what a salt shaker is. Right. It's none of that. Yeah. That would be in cases where it could be used to select. You don't use it to select. So he's saying that no, he's saying a salt shaker is never used to select. If I didn't put,
it's not used to select right now. Second, I put in the rice inside. I'm using.
Yeah, but why am I putting the rice inside? What's the purpose of the rice inside? So it's the rabbanan dipsik ratio that he doesn't want, like nichalai, and so it's permissible. It's not nichalai. No, you don't care about it coming out, not coming out. That's nichalai, but you want the salt in there. That's not the nichalai. Is I don't care if the rice stays back or not. That's not my concern. That's the nichalai. It doesn't bother him. Comes out, doesn't come out. The fact that it's there, whatever. So that's why Chamavadia looked at the salt shaker. There was the Rav Shlomo Zalman that wanted to say that he says anything that's used right by the food, right at the time of the food, that's, even if it's a keli, and it looks like a keli bar, but if it's used right prior to the eating of the food, it's not considered a keli bar. Right? That was Rav Shlomo Zalman. You want to say if it's right before the eating of the food, that's the achila. Even if it's a keli, even if it's a bar keli, but it's used right before the food, it would be permissible not to. He would let the salt. And And then we talked about the I really want to just finish up the Chazara part. Okay, so we already went over. All right. So the next part was Ochel mitoch so you have to take the food from the non-food. Okay, and the food is what you have to take out right away. And we saw that it applies by Shnei Mine Oichlin, even by two foods, the food that you want versus the food that you don't want right now. So even though you understand the word ochel is food and solid is the waste, it's not necessarily that way. It's what you want versus what you don't want. Okay? And then we talked about bora with one type of food, okay? Which is I have two types of fish. And we said that will be a bora situation. Okay, larger and smaller, we said not considered boras. I have the same fish, just different cuts of the fish, right? Some big, some smaller, chicken, big, small. That would be okay. But other things such as different types of peanuts, either different types of almonds, different types of stuff like that, different types of cherries, that would be considered a mixture and would have a borer issue. All right, that was the chazara of the last two shiurim. So today we're going to do a chazara on page 23 on your volumes in front of you, and volume 19. We have here now another idea about Bora. Page 23 in volume 19.
The book comes out. The rabbi heard last night. Sarah, prayer to Hashem to give me that.
Beautiful.
Like
but we didn't get to it on Shabbat, but the next piece in the Gemara in Sanhedrin is saying that if you don't do Chazara, you never learned. You haven't learned. It's not considered learning unless you do Chazara. So, and it's very important because sometimes here I ask you questions what we learned just 2 weeks ago, and everyone's looking with me blank stares. So I can't have this. We need to learn and remember. All right. So now the question is, the Gemara, every time the Gemara talked about Borer, the Gemara said, Shnei mine oichlin. The guy had two foods in front of him. Does that mean that Borer is just on food? Can Borer be on non-foods? That's the question. So Rashi, there's a Rashi, and it's not just it's Rashi Shita throughout the 39 Melachot. Rashi Shita, we say the first 11 Melachot are what? What category are they? The Siddur the pot of how you make bread, right? When do you make bread in the Mishkan? When do you make bread in the Mikdash? When do you make bread in the Mishkan? But Rashi Shita is the Melachot are not, the 39 Melachot are not based on what they did once the Mishkan was already there. The Lechem Apanim didn't come before the Mishkan was built. You have to have the Mishkan and then Lechem Apanim came. Rashi Shita is that the 39 Melachot are the building of the Mishkan. So the construction. So where in the construction was there the Siddur de Pas? Where was making bread in the construction? Anytime the first 11 Melachot are about baking bread. So Rashi tells us, if you take a look at the source in front of you, the source number 1, he says, all of them, all these 11 Melachot that we know as the order of making bread, were actually used to make the dyes, to make the ingredients for the tchelet, argaman, talat shani, all the different dyes would have to be processed the same way, right? For example, according to Rashi, when you would do the planting, what were you planting for? You were planting to make the plants that you would need to make the dyes, right? The same thing when you would make the holes in the ground, the Irish, you would do that to make the holes for the plants that you would use for the plants that you use as dyes. The kaitzer was also to cut the plants, right? So all for the dye, the smoothing out, all those different the dash, all these different melachot were done for the dyes, which are not foods. What was borer? Borer was the same issue. You cut up the plant, you want to make the dye, but you have to remove the impurities, the stones, or whatever else is there. You have to remove them by hand. So Rashi Shita itself would mean borer would apply to non-food items. Okay, because that's the way Rashi understands the third Melachot, that they weren't food, that they were the building, the construction of the Mishkan. So that's Rashi. In fact, Rashi in Masechet Shabbat is even more clear. We take a look at source number 2. There is a Gemara. The Gemara says, Amar Rava, Amanda Avid Chavita, this guy who makes a barrel, Chayv Mishum Sheva Chatot. He can actually be over 7 melachot after bringing 7 korbanot. So Rashi, in explaining what are these 7, all right, in building this barrel, this was an earthenware barrel. They're using the earth, right, ticheres. And Rashi in source number 3 tells us, what do? Different melachot. They had to grind the clumps of earth, okay, which is tochen. And then he says, uvorer hatzroros hagasot mitochan. He has to remove the large stones from the mud, from the earth. So there's borer, Rashi says, in non-food items. So Rashi Shita we have. Rashi Shita is, there is borer by non-food items. Okay? Now, the Taz, he says as follows. They bring in front of him 2 types of food. It only applies by food. The lashon of the Gemara over and over again, when it actually explicitly talks about borer, it says shnei minei oichlin, 2 types of food. Right? That's the condition. Means food from the waste.
Putting it into for us to understand it. That's what it's like.
Okay, so let's go. The Taz maybe it's literal. Maybe it's literal. And that's what the Taz is going to do. Taz is going to say what he's saying and then say what you're saying. Okay, so let's take a look. And the Taz says, there is no buyer, perhaps, because the lashon of the Gemara, when talking explicitly about the malacha of buyer, it never uses other stuff other than food. It always talks about the chila. And if there were 2 taisi for him, it says it doesn't say it says always oichlim. However, he says the Gemara we just said, the Amar Rava said, a guy who makes an earthenware barrel, Rashi, bar b'neim. Right, the bar is one of them. That's why Rashi. Other Rishonim don't learn that bar is there, because perhaps they actually hold there is no bar by food. The Rishonim hold like that. But then says the Taz that you know what? Perhaps when Tosfos says Mine Oichem, that's the way to have the Gersum. Maybe it means to be marbe by food. Meaning, really, bara is always by everything else. Perhaps I would think that food is, something that shouldn't have bara because I'm eating, right? To tell us, the Chiddush, there's even bara by food. That's what the Taz wants to say. Okay, so the Taz wants to say, really, everyone says there's bara by non-food items. And the fact that bara is by food items, that's the Chiddush. Okay?
Definitely was in the construction of Mishkan, and making
right, non-food items.
That's the reality. That's what they did.
Right, but not everyone holds that's where the third Nemelachos come from. Rav Hai Gaon was of the opinion third Nemelachos is what was done in the Mishkan, not what was done for building the Mishkan, but rather the lechem upon him itself. Right, according to Rav Hai Gaon, you can say the bar was just for food, and bar is never non-food.
He's going to tell you that everything was done in construction Mishkan would be okay,
unless they're related to food melachos afterwards. A lot of them would be, right? But yeah, perhaps bar, according to Rav Hai Gaon, and the Shita is only on food and not on non-food items.
Don't only say that Hashem said stop the construction for Shabbat, stop the food.
Right. It's V'yakel Pekude. Yeah.
They should stop what you're doing and on Shabbat.
Right.
It sounds like it's instruction. Not
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. It's a question of how you go in Shita. Okay. Okay. Fine. That says the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah says the same thing. Kotva achronim. The hu adin. Okay, this is the achronim saying this. The hu adin mechol davar kishem shnei minim kigoin kalim godim shaykh beira. Val ken tzarich liber zeh min shroit tzalito achshav ashar yisharu al mekoymam v'loy lehefach. You have to always take from what you want and not from what you don't want. Okay, so there is, according to the achronim, there is borer by non-food items. Okay, we're just taking a look at the lashon of the Yalkut Yosef outside of the Tzurba for a moment, and he writes, the malacha borer applies to a mixture of tools, garments, or books, just as they apply to the mixture of two foods. Therefore, when someone wants a tool, garment, or a book from that mixture, he must remove the one that he desires from the others in order to use it immediately afterward. This is a parallel to separating the desired food from the undesired material, which is mixed. And the Revisted in his Sefer, he tells us same idea, but I like the way he breaks it down over here. So I'll just read it the way he says it. He says the word ochel and psolet, you cannot take it literal, meaning food and waste. Okay. In truth, however, ochel and psolet, he says, are merely symbols. All right, the simanim, they're symbols. Ochel refers to any type in a mixture that you desire. That's what you want. That's ochel. That's the siman ochel. But it doesn't mean food. Okay, and psolet refers to other types in the mixture that are not needed or wanted at that time, even though they might want to be needed later. And it's not actual waste, right? It's just you don't want it right now. That has the term of undesired. That's psolet. So desired is ochel. Undesired is, that's the way you have to understand ochel. And so that's what he says. So here's an example. He says a woman is selecting clothes for her child from a basket of laundry. She needs the socks now and the other items later. So the socks are the ochel, while the other laundry is. Okay, so we'll deal with that in a moment. We'll deal with that in a moment. He's saying very good, but it depends on the size. We'll tell you like that. Okay, so good. So that's actually the next piece. That's the Aruch HaShulchan. The Aruch HaShulchan in source number 6, he says it's not just in Oichlin. But then he says, we have a big question here. How do we manage anything on Shabbos? If there's borer in every situation, taking a knife, I'm taking a fork, whatever I'm taking, there's always going to be a borer situation. Clothes hanging on the wall, and I want to take a clothes, it's always going to be borer. How's a person going to function? Books are mixed up. He says, similarly, wealthy people on page 26, they have shirim, yesh kamamine ka'aros ketanos v'gedolos. They have all types of bowls, right, big and small, and all these things, and they're all mixed up. How are you going to take it? Every minute of Shabbat, there's a borer issue if you're saying borer is on non-food items. So the Aruch HaShulchan gives us two answers of how to deal with non-food items. And the first one, Rabbi Tzion was alluding to. That's what he says. The truest davar zeh mishnei panim. There's two ways to answer it. Ha'echad the bedavar hanikar harbe le'ayin haroya lo yishayich lemer b'zeh breira. He says if there's something that's easily recognizable by the eye, then there's no mixture there. There's no borer. There's no mixture there. Meaning, if I can see clearly that this is a fork and this is a spoon, right? There is no borer. There is no mixture here. Everything is nicker. Everything is easily recognizable. So, Rabbi was saying, if I have the pile of clothing, right, and I can clearly differentiate between a T-shirt and a shirt, right, or whatever it is, big items, you can see. That's perhaps that he used the story he used here of a sock. Okay, because socks are small. We're going to see in a moment that small items might not, even though they're mixed, right? They might not be considered nicker. The smaller the item, the harder to recognize easily. You have to start to differentiate. Now, how much is considered differentiate? So the real question is, because he says over here, it's your eye that sees. Well, guess what? Some people's eyes see better than others. All right? You ever tell one of your little brothers, go find something, and they can't find it? And it's right in front of their eyes, right? Remember when we were like that way too? Right? You can't find it, right? So nothing is nicker for us. Nothing is recognizable. I can't see anything. So guess what? Everything's a bar situation. But the other people who have a finer eye, right? They can come in and they can spot things quicker, right? And they can see things quicker. So you're really putting it into the hand of the person who's seeing the situation. Okay, but let's read a little further. Change the brand and Natila. He's just taking Natila Alma. Everything that's recognizable is not going to be an issue, and you cannot say the same when it comes to Mine Paris, right? Since they're so small and there's so many of them, so then you're going to have to do bar, right? So when it's small, see the issue here, if it's small and it's many, now you're going to get into a situation where, okay, if I have a laundry basket and I have a shirt and an underwear and something else in there, 2, 3, 4 items, right? Even if it's mixed up, they're all recognizable. It's small. It's a small amount of items. It's not a big mixture there. So he said, then it's nicker. Or if I have big items, many of them, but they're all big items and all of them easy to see, so then that's not a borer issue.
If I take all these out, that wouldn't be an issue because
It's sitting by itself.
it's all by itself.
Yeah, everything's standing by itself.
If I want
Oh,
to out, like, I wanna
yeah.
take it out of
Yeah.
here, then-
Now you're in a bar situation. Right. Very good.
That's what we want. Things out is no good.
If that's what you want or you don't want.
That's what
If you want it, then that's miyad, then you're good. And if it's not, if you don't want it, then you can't do it. If you want both of them at the same time, you can do it too. Take out whichever one you take out, both of them. That's fine. Okay. So now that was the first answer of the Aruch HaShulchan. The Aruch HaShulchan now wants to give a second answer. So Aruch HaShulchan says, how do you get away with doing so many things on Shabbat? Because many of them are very recognizable. If they're very recognizable, there's no bar. Second answer is how you're using the item. Okay? Vasheni, the b'shas ha'achila yochel litol oichel mitoch ha'besod, v'lochel she'ein zeh derech b'reir v'lochel she'ein zeh derech b'reir v'derech ha'achil v'kach. It's rather, it's the way of eating. U'memel v'chol dvarim shenu tzrichen ke'et l'lvosh begodim v'lishtamish b'hakelim v'lumod b'asfarim hevi k'sha'as achila. Whatever I need right now, that's considered me eating. Again, eating is what I desire for the moment. So if I'm taking a book or I'm taking something from a mixture and I'm taking it, biyad, miyad, right? Then it'll be fine. You have all those conditions. Okay, fine.
Why aren't really
So what's the nafkamina between these two answers of the Aruch HaShulchan? What's the nafkamina between them? Meaning, in one situation, there's no bora. You can do anything you want with it. They're nicker. You can take what I don't want from what I want, no problem, because they're all recognizable, all different. And according to the second approach of the Aruch HaShulchan is, no, there is a bar, but you just have to take it the right way. Take what you want from what you don't want, for right away and by hand. Okay, so that would be the difference between the two answers. You wanted to say something, Devin?
Yeah, why aren't both answers really the same answer? Because let's say person's son, the child's missing socks, you can see he's not wearing socks. So you know that's why I desire, and that's what's missing.
Okay, and where's the mixture? Where's the socks?
The laundry basket.
The socks are in the laundry
The
basket.
mother is, rummaging through things. You can tell that's what she's looking for, but the child's not wearing socks. It's something that's ayin ra. Really, that
The ayin ra has to be on the item you're looking for, not the situation. Not that the person's missing the socks, or rather, can I notice the socks very easily? There's going to be another way to deal with the laundry basket, and it won't be considered borer. We're going to get there shortly. Okay. Now let's take a look at Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata. So Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata wants to say, and this way many Ashkenazim they get socked this way, but Ribiad also brings it down like this. So he says, all right, so let's see, it's a sefer bein svarim acherim. You want to take out a sefer? Apparently it's from the shelf, but we're going to say it's really when it's piles, not on the shelf. So we hold the Lemaisa on a shelf is not considered a mixture. It's on the shelf. You can see it. You can take it. Look away, it's in a pot. Okay.
When you have the two volume and you are looking for eggs, oh no, it's not in volume 6, it's in volume 4. So you have to return this
So
volume.
halacha l'maisa, we say books on a shelf is not considered a mixture.
Yeah, but when you return one because you made a mistake.
But if it's not a mixture, you can do whatever you want with it.
You're talking about it, it's on a pile on the table.
If it's a pile on the table, perhaps that's an issue. Okay, perhaps that's an issue. So he's saying over here, so you only can take out the sefer if you're about to learn from it. Okay, it has to be immediate. You can't take it out now and say, I'm going to learn from it in a half hour from now. You take it out, you learn right away. And he writes, if one is interested in taking out the book long before studying it, then what should he do? He wants to take it out to learn in an hour from now. He takes it out to learn a little bit right now, right? So he had a tzarech for it immediately, and then he can leave it out. But if it's clear which book it is, for example, even if I have the pile on the table, right? I have the pile, all the books are all over the place, stacked up, but it's recognizable. There's one sefer, right? And the Tzurba, it's all blue, it's the only soft cover, and it's on the table, and I see it amongst all the other books. I can take it. Why? Because it's snicker. I know which book this is, right? The other books, if they're all similar type of covers and stuff like that, and it's hard to tell. Oh, very good. So different volumes and service, then you'll have the issue, right? Let's see a little more. The Chamaladya. Okay, 1 second before we move on. Right. So we saw that. Let me just show you inside. Where's this load of Shabbat? 361, halacha 46. Let me see what I just wanted to bring that in. Books that are on a bookshelf in their normal position are not considered mixed. Okay? So on a bookshelf, not considered a mixture. This is also the case if one has boxes or, okay, this is boxes that containers of food in the fridge. Okay, we'll talk about that. But that's the halacha on the bookshelf. If it's on a bookshelf, it's not considered a mixture. And you can take any book you want. You don't want it, you can pull whatever you want from it, whenever you want from it. No issue. Okay, now, Chamabadia, in the Yabia Omer, he writes, Sheyesh lahaka, you can be meko when it comes to these things. Especially, let's talk now about, he's talking about knife, spoons, and forks. So I have a mixture of knife, spoons, and forks. And can I put them away? And so I finished the Suda, we washed it up, whatever it is. Now, can I put them away? I don't have a usage for it right now. Okay? And I'm not using it. I just want to put it away. Can I do that?
No.
So you would say no. Chamabadia says yes. And he said you can do it. And he says, leave them alone. Leave them alone. Don't bother them. And it's permissible to do this. What would be his reasoning? What would be his reasoning? So the Alkut Yosef brings down as follows. He says, first of all, this is interesting. He says there is no mixture here of ochel and psola. Right now, I don't want it, and right now, I don't need this. I don't need both of them equally. I desire them both equally, and I don't desire them. And there's no mixture of ochel and psola in this mixed up forks and spoons. Number one. Number two, he says, some poskim say, Bor only applies the thing that grow from the ground and not flatware. So not silverware. We didn't see it, but he brings it down. She'ein breil el b'gedulei karka. So yeah, only something gedulei karka.
Rashi's opinion said that there's no bowl.
Rashi's opinion that Bor can apply to everything.
But
And food. Yeah. No. If the whole question was, does it apply to non-food? Food, we all know. The Gemara says it straight up. If he has too many oichlim, he has to do that. That's a straight Gemara. Rashi's chiddush was that even on non-food. The Taz was to say that Tosut also agrees to this and says that on non-food also, even though Tosut always uses lashon oichlim. Okay, but there are those who understand it. There are Rishonim who understand it that it's only oichlim and it's not non-food items. So you have this, and then says Chamabadia that we know that if it's recognizable, right? This is Aruch HaShulchan. That if it's recognizable, then there is no mixture. So over here, he wants to say that flatware, that your silverware is considered recognizable. Now, this goes back to the eye that looks. To some people, it is very recognizable. Apparently, he understood that forks, spoons, and knives being mixed together is recognizable. If you take a look at the footnote number 7 on page 27, he says this would still be an issue if it's small. Okay, now all of a sudden I have, you know which ones? The dessert spoons. All right, the dessert spoons and forks. Right? Says Chamitzchak that they're still going to be bar. They're not going to say that they're recognizable. Regular size forks, spoons, knives, that's recognizable. But perhaps smaller ones, now again, some people, let's say caterers and chefs like this who deal with small ones all the time, right? Perhaps to them, it's also recognizable. Right? So you go back to that subjective view of that. But Derech Klal, it says Chamavadia that flatware is there's no mixture there, and you can put it back any way you want after the Suda. It's not a problem at all. Okay? For Ashkenazim, that we saw that they are more makbid on this, so we're gonna have to figure out a way for them to put it back also. We're gonna get that into a moment. Okay, the Tzitz Eliezer. The Tzitz Eliezer was told that there was a certain Rav that made a big issue about getting the Sefer Navi that they needed for the Haftarahs. Okay, so after the Kriyas HaTorah, they're taking out for the Haftarah, and they went on the shelf and they started taking down this book, this Sefer Navi, that Sefer Navi, looking for the right one to take out to read from. Okay, so he says, and he made a big stink about it. He said this is a border issue. Books, I think it was books. What it says here it was they had scrolls usually. They didn't have scrolls usually.
Scrolls, we don't know.
Only they're good at scrolls. The most people never had the scrolls. And they believe the Bill Gaon was of the opinion that you should have the scrolls, but most people didn't use the Nevi'im. He says it's Sfarim. It says Yeser Sifra Nevi'im, page 28, source 10. They wanted to find the right one. So issue would be A issue would be they're taking out the wrong one. Issue B, even if they found the right one, let's say they wanted to take it out before the Torah was being read, want to get it ready. Well, that's not miyad, right? So this Rav wanted to say they were doing wrong. So says it Tzitz Eliezer, he says as follows. Let's read what he's lashing here. Look what he says. Merchai, take a look at the third paragraph. Me'ikar dedina loy matzinu b'chazal b'Rambam u'Tur u'Shulchan Aruch dina de iser bar ki im al oichlin. Say the Rambam, the Tur, the Shulchan Aruch, none of them talk about borer other in the food category.
Food means food, not some
Food. Not the siman of food. Actual food. That's the way the Rambam, the Tur, the Shulchan Aruch all talk about borer. They talk about borer rak ba'achila. Only by food. And he says, Barak mitbeis midrashosha Rabbeinu hataz. So this is only from the time of the Taz and further that you have this idea of bar by non-food items. Okay, that's the way the Tzitz Eliezer puts this into saying. So therefore, he says there's no clear proof. And also, when the Taz said kalim, which kalim was he talking about? Perhaps plates, cups, and the like, which is very identifiable, it's nicker, it's recognizable. Maybe the Taz never talked about that. Maybe the Taz is only about small, very small items. Maybe that's the kalim he was talking about that have bayr. And he says, the Aruch HaShulchan talks about this. So he writes, and you look at the bottom of page 28, the Aruch HaShulchan's first teretz, that there is no borer issues by items because of their largeness and recognizableness, right? He says the same would apply over here. And since the Sifrei Nevi'im, they're recognizable one from the other, okay? More, they're on a bookshelf. We paskin that on a bookshelf there is no mixture there. So basically he was saying that Rav didn't have to get excited and say that you can't take out the Sfarim. It's fine, you can take it out beforehand. and that is not an issue at all. Yeah.
What's your big ticket steps are?
What?
Doesn't hold over to the answer.
In what way?
It holds that there is a problem but
The Yalkut Yosef?
Yeah.
He held the same thing, exactly the same thing as the Tzitz Eliezer. He's saying by big items which are recognizable. And the question really is, what is considered recognizable? What stage of bigness, of largeness is recognizable or not? So Chamabadia was of the opinion that forks, spoons, and forks, spoons, and knives are recognizable, right? And if the Tzitz Eliezer would understand that to also be the same size, he would agree the same thing. They're all agreeing that when it's very small, that's the issue. No one's arguing with that, seems to be. Everyone sees it's small. That's okay, I just wanted to talk about this one for a second outside the Tzurba. Here in the Yalkut Yosef, so he writes over here. It's important for the shul. I remember when I was helping my father in his shul, I used to help put away the Sfarim, the Sidurim, the Chumashim, the Talitim after the Shachrit, after the prayers. Here we do it also. Put it away. Can I put it away? I'm selecting from one book to the other book. I don't need it right now. There's all the issues of verse. So he says that he had permissible for officers of the synagogue to collect all the prayer books and Chumashim scattered about the congregation after they have left, and to arrange them in the proper shelves on Shabbat. There is no issue of Borah. They're recognizable. They're nicker, they're big. So there's no issue of Borah on these items. Again, there is no issue of Borah here. According to Chamabadia, there's no issue here. No issue. There's they're recognizable, and you can do whatever you want with them.
Each one is to himself.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's a pile or.
If they're recognizable, no difference. Yeah. Some books are not. They have small books. They're all small, and they're hard to tell each other from one from the other. So there could be an issue. You know, sometimes you have those small Tehillims and the Zohars and all these small little books. Okay, so they're all put together. So maybe that would be an issue. Maybe that would be an issue. It could possibly be that, but here it's on a shelf. That would be considered shelf. So there's no mixture. It's on a shelf, but it'll be on a table in a pile.
Now you want to fix it.
Perhaps that would be considered a barish. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Recognizable. Separate them or not?
Why are you saying they're recognizable?
Look at the color. It's very color.
Okay. Let's okay. So the real okay. We're gonna have to understand of when it's recognizable and when it's a mixture, and let's take it step by step. So far we said larger the item, more recognizable. So that's pretty small. That's more than a fork, knife, and a spoon. So perhaps that would be an issue. It's also Eichlin. According to everybody, it's Boris on Eichlin. That's correct. But even if you wanted to say if it's a davar nicker by food, which you're going to see, the truth is, if I can go into a soup and there's big pieces of a carrot, the big piece of that, I can just pull out what I don't want, what I want. No difference because there's no bar in that issue. But it's also because it's liquid. Let's deal with it step by step. Okay. Now, let's say you are of the opinion that there is borer by items such as the forks, spoons, and knives. Okay, Machmer, the Ashkenazim are like this. There is, they want to say that there is borer by these kalim. So what can you do? What can you do? One of the things he says you can do over here. Okay, that's another piece that we'll bring up later. Okay, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the one here, and then we'll just mention it, and then we'll see that again. Okay, he says over here, this person has mixed up forks, spoons, knives, and he wants to put them away. What should he do? After rinsing them with water, taking each piece from the pile one by one in no particular order. They washed it, and now he has it all standing in one place. Picks one up, he dries it because you want to dry it. So he's drying it. Everything is halacha, okay? No squeezing anything, and then he can put it in its right place. Picks up the next one. He's not picking one over the other. He's just picking the next one from the pile, the next one randomly. So then there's no bar.
And if you do not randomly, I'm taking out there's
For Sfardim, it's not a problem.
mixture of 100 forks, spoons, and knives. I'm just taking all these forks.
For Sfardim, it's not an issue. Okay? For Ashkenazim, it would be an issue. The other way to deal with this, and we're going to come to it shortly, is making no more mixture. Getting rid of the mixture.
Table.
Right. Spreading it out. The whole issue is a bar is when you have a mixture. If you no longer have a mixture, and it stands by itself, you can do whatever you want. Okay? So that's unmixing the mixture, which we're going to get into short. All right, now, someone here was talking about this before. We talked about the laundry basket. We said, how can we get to it without being a borrow issue? So there's another Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah says, let's read it together. There are a couple of clothes hanging on the wall, and the guy is searching for one right now. And by doing this, he's forced the salik mitchila kol shar begadim lo havi b'chal bar. Okay, and he has to be salik. What's that meaning? Siluk. What is this? To remove. He's forced to remove. All right.
Get to the bottom part.
Exactly. In order to get to the bottom, so the guy has. You ever went to? Let's say you went to Brit Yitzchak on Shabbat Friday night, right? So everyone comes, and it's in the winter, and everyone puts the coats down. There's a whole stack of coats, and you came early, and now you want to head out, right? And now there's tons of coats, and my coat's in the middle of the pile. So is this Bora now? I'm gonna go through the coats. This is not the one. So in that case, we don't say that's Bora. We're not doing Bora. We're doing what's called siluk. We're removing to get to what we want. Okay, I'm going to read it to you from Rabbi Ribiat, because he's going to explain it very nicely of how we understand this. He says as follows: merely removing an unwanted item that lies on top of other desired items, or that blocks the access, is not considered bora. The simple removal of an unwanted item in order to gain access, even though it looks like you're taking the psolim mitoch ochel, it's not. It's permitted because the individual has no interest whatsoever in sorting or improving. I'm not caring about the mixture. It's not that I want to remove the stuff that I don't want and keep the stuff that I do want. That's not what I'm doing. I'm removing those stuff to get what I need. I'm not improving a mixture and not working with a mixture here, right? When you have a bowl and you have cherries and some of them are spoiled, right? Why would we want to take out the spoiled cherries? So all the good cherries would stay. That would be an issue. But here, he's not removing the coats so the other coats can stay. He just wants to get to his coat. He's making access to his coat. Okay? He merely, because the individual has no interest whatsoever in sorting and improving a mixture, but merely intends to remove an obstruction to get to the item that he wants. That's considered siluk, and that will be permissible. So here in the case of the laundry basket, so I want to get to the item, I can remove the top stuff. I can move things around. I can remove it from the top to get to what I want. I'm not improving the mixture. It's not about the mixture. It's about getting to what I want. Here in the laws of Shabbat, outside the Tzurba for a moment, he gives you the classic examples. So, example, guy has a bowl of fruit, tons of fruit, and he wants the green apple in the middle, right? Can he remove all the other apples to get to that green apple? Sure, that's siluk. That's just removing. I'm not getting rid of the green apples to be left with the red apple. I'm getting rid of the green apple, the red apple's on top to get to my green apples so I can have it. That's siluk. That's okay. Clothing on top of a basket of laundry. Pushing aside clothing in a closet to get to the desired clothing. That is all permissible under the principle of siluk. It's not a borer situation there. Okay? That's it. Taking it out, even if you take it out of the mixture. Even if you take it out of the mixture. Even if you take it out of the mixture.
That whole coat, that whole pile of
Yeah.
coat. This one,
Until you get to your coat. Even though it looks like you're taking the undesired, right? But you're not taking undesired from desired. You're taking undesired to get to what you need so you can put it on. Stop bar. You're not remaining with a mixture that you want. You're not doing anything to the mixture. That's siluk. Okay, fine. He says the same thing would apply to the gabbai who uses a cart index. Okay, so people make the bidding on the aliyot and stuff, and he has to move through, and he wants to remove the names that he doesn't need to get to the name that he needs. Right? That's siluk. That's just removing. He's not doing bora. He's just doing siluk, getting to what he needs, not improving a mixture. He's not improving a mixture. Okay. On page 30, the Pnin Halacha tells us. Okay. Okay, so what's an example here he brings us? For example, kids are playing with games. They're playing toys, and the toys get mixed up. And now you want to clean up. Can I separate the pieces? Well, usually most toys, first of all, they're small. So they're not going to be considered nikkur recognizable. They're pretty small. Okay? So you can't do it. But let's say, again, if you can spread it out, so there's no more mixture, then you will be able to put it away. And then, let's say I want to start a game. I want to play a game. So I have, I don't know what to get, Trouble, Sorry, Monopoly, all the pieces got mixed up together. And now I want to play Monopoly. So now I can take the Monopoly pieces out. Why? Miyad, biyad. It's I'm taking what I want right now to play the game. So I can take out the pieces that I want. To put away, you can't. If it's all mixed up, you can't do it. Because you're not doing it for miyad. It's not. Miyad is to use it, not to clean it. Okay? Yeah. Has to be to use it. For bar. Okay. Fine. Now we move on to the definition of a mixture. What is considered a mixture? So we already talked about this really pretty much last time also, that two types of foods, or even perhaps if a person likes the dark chicken versus the light chicken, maybe that's also considered a mixture. Colors, it could be considered a mixture. And now the question is, what about large pieces? Of two types that are placed together. That was the question about the yachni. Right? So the guy has that plate, and he has two pieces there. He has a carrot, a big piece, has a chicken, big piece. Is it recognizable, or is it still a mixture? Says the Tzurba Tadeshin on source number 15. He says, all right, so the deli, right? So let's talk about the deli plate for a second. Tell me, how would it be permissible if they have slices of pastrami and stuff like that on top, tons of it, and then the one piece of turkey that I want is underneath everything? What would be a permissible way to do it, to get to that turkey? Or why would it be permissible to take? What?
Completely covered?
Completely covered. And I want to get to the turkey. Why would it be permissible to do that? See, look. I'm getting to the piece that I want. I'm getting rid of the top to get to what I want. I'm not improving a mixture. I'm taking the turkey slice. Okay. Now, all right. So now he's talking about, let's say I do want to separate. I want to take away I can't stand carrots on a plate. By the way, I love carrots, but I'm just saying for the muscle. Okay. I can't stand carrots. And I want to remove all the carrots. Can I say that carrots are distinguishable enough that I can take it off? Tzurba doesn't want to be mechalik. And he says, I don't have a good raya to say that would be distinguishable enough. Okay? And he says not to do it. Here, the Ramah. Two types of fish are considered two types of food. And sorting one type from the other is forbidden unless done by hand in order to eat them immediately. Even though the pieces are large and each one is recognizable independently. So the Ramah says, even if it's recognizable, when it's food, You can't. It has to be ochel mitopso biyad miyad. Not like what we said by kalim and stuff like that. As long as it's nicker, that's the Ramah. It's 2 large pieces of fish. Now the Piskei Tshuvot on page 32. That is a very important Piskei Tshuvot. If you take a look, he writes Uva Emet in the second paragraph. He writes, it's one of the most difficulties within the halachot of Bora, of what's recognizable and what's not. Okay? What is a mixture and what's not? It's not explained well. Don't inspire hate to the poiskim. And it's all dependent. It's what the person knows and understands and how he sees. Even twice. Everybody has his own Torah of what's considered recognizable and what's not considered recognizable. All right? So that's the Piskei Tshuvot. Very important line over there because the Gemara said that's the way Bora is. What do you see? You see a mixture, you don't see a mixture. When is it a definite mixture and when is it not definite a mixture? The matter is dependent on size and to what extent they are different from each other. Here, he gives an example. Take a look in the 3rd paragraph. A guy has an apple and an orange next to each other in a bowl. It's not a mixture. 1 apple, 1 orange. There's no mixture there. Where's the mixture? It's 2 pieces. They're both recognizable. It's not a mixture. Okay. The same will apply, he says, to 2 apples and 2 oranges. There's no mixture. 2 apples, 2 oranges. But when many apples and oranges are mixed together, now is a mixture. So sometimes the same size item, it depends how many items you have. It can be a mixture versus no mixture. Therefore, he said that Trumat Hadeshin said, don't be quick to say it's not a mixture, especially when it comes to food. But don't be quick to say it's not a mixture, it's recognizable, and to take. You can't do that. It has to really be not a mixture. And now, how does he explain this? Look at the last paragraph on page 32. V'zeh is clear, ma'al nikol safek ki kol sheyesh eza tircha afilu kal, even a very light tircha, anything that requires any type of small work of searching in the mixture to take out what you want, that's considered a mixture. Any type of effort, even a small effort. Once there's effort involved, that's to be considered, that's what he wants to consider the borrowed situation. Okay? Yeah. Right. So we're not talking about the malacha now. We're talking about defining mixture. What's the definition of a mixture? Says the Piskei Tshuvos, the definition of a mixture is that you have to work to unmix it. And work in order to select. If I have 1 apple, 2 apples, 2 oranges, I'm not fishing around in the bowl to get it. Here's the apple, whoop, got it, it's out. I have now a bowl with tons of stuff in there, a mixture of apples and hundreds of them. Right now, to get the right one, it takes more effort because there's so many of them around. That makes it a mixture. That's a borer situation. It's defining what a mixture is for borer. Okay? Take a look into Orchot Shabbat in source 18. Talks about a refrigerator now. Okay? So a guy has a refrigerator. And in the refrigerator, he has items. Do I say that it's a mixture in the refrigerator? And I cannot take out what I don't want from the refrigerator because I have a borer situation there? And it has to be biyad miyad and have the same conditions? It says depends. If it's pots in there, okay, they're recognizable. They're different pots. There are different pans in there. They're big, they're bulky. They're recognizable. it's not considered mixed. But if there's small items placed in the jumble, I have different types of cheeses, yogurts, lebans, and everything mixed up in one of the shelves. Here's the item. You know, the crisper that you have where you have all the fruits and stuff inside? So it's all mixed up inside there. At least mine is. I don't know. Maybe you guys have it in compartments. It's all mixed up in there now. And there's small stuff there. And maybe they're not so recognizable. It's a mixture. You have to take from what you want, from what you don't want. And it has to be for right away. It depends how it's stored in the refrigerator. Depends how it's stored in the refrigerator. If it's big enough that it's considered its own independent item, then it's fine. But if it's not, then it's a mixture. Then you have to use the condition of bar. Now, if you want to find an item in there, right? So then you're doing siluk, right? You're removing it to get to what you want. That's fine. Okay. But to remove what you don't want from the refrigerator, that you can't do. Right? Siluk would be okay in the refrigerator. Same as everywhere else. Okay. Let's take a look at what I put over here from the Yalkut Yosef on page 348. See? Usually I try to put something that helps us define. So he writes over here in Halacha 44. Okay. Here's the case. I will tell you. The guy has a soup. And in the soup, he has pieces of meat and he has pieces of vegetable. Okay? Can he remove it even if no one's planning to eat them right now? The guy just wants to take it out. Wants to take out the vegetable or piece of meat. There's no meat. There's no miyat. It's not for right now. Can he do it? So says Chacham Ovadia, if the pieces are large enough so that they're easy to remove them, So what exactly is the tircha, right? Any tircha. He says as long as it's easy to remove them, minimal effort, they're large, they're not considered to be in a mixture. Bless you. If the pieces are tiny and difficult to remove, okay, then it's considered a mixture, and you would not be able to do it unless you're doing it for right away. Or another way to do it is if you remove the piece with the liquid. All right, so then you didn't take out one from the other, you took it out together, which we'll deal with shortly. But that is the definition that the Yalkut Yosef gives. The definition is if it's large enough and easy enough to take out, that's not considered a mixture and you'll be able to do it. But if it is small and it requires some effort, then that will be considered a mixture and you can only do it using the conditions of
This is dividing place, when everything is compartments, and let's say the whole thing was together, and it just wasn't something particular, then it's a small item, and you want particularly this item, so by removing the ones that you don't want, this is called, but when you have large items, this thing,
Yep. That's what we're saying. So if it's large enough that it's easy enough to remove, then it's not considered a mixture. If it's small or hard to remove, then it would be considered a mixture. Then you have to take miyad liyad. Okay, fine. That is on that. Okay, so here we spoke about this, but now let's see it inside. Source number 19. Source number 19. Okay. The Gemara tells us, Kios Rav Dimi, Rav Dimi came, he said, Shabbat de Rav Bibi, was Rav Bivai's Shabbat, okay, and he had Rav Ami and Rav Asi by him. So he placed before them a basket of fruits, and he left on the leaves on the stems. Now he said, I don't know if he said because you cannot remove food from the waste, or he wanted to make it look fuller, and that's why he left it. All right, sometimes you want to leave the packaging because it makes it look nicer. Okay, so he says, I don't know why he left it on there. And he placed it before them. Rashi, in explaining like this, says Rashi in source number 20 says this is what happened. He didn't want to remove the leaves and place it down for each individual. Rather, what did he do? He threw it in front of them, and they took it. And there is and through throwing them down, the food separated on its own from the leaves, and therefore there was no more mixture. And now you can do whatever you want. You can take away the leaves, you can take away the fruit, because once you unmix the mixture, you scatter the mixture, there is no more Boris situation. Take a look at source 34, source 21 on page 34. Someone asked Rav Moshe, the forks and the spoons, throwing them on the table and separating them that way. And tshuva was, he ate Tzurba. It's a beautiful advice. Okay? So according to Ashkenazim, who say that forks and spoons are not recognizable enough, right? Their eitzah, one of the eitzah they can do is they can unscatter the mixture. Here in the laws of Shabbat, it talks about unscattering the mixture. Scatter. Okay, scatter the mixture, or what's it called? Unmix the mixture. Let's see how you put it. What lashon he uses this? 1 second. 368. Okay, here's his lashon. Let's read. Scattering the mixture. Okay, scattering the mixture. It's possible to unmix a mixture. For instance, if one has a mixture of types of forks and spoons that are, here's lashon, not easily differentiated. Okay, so you want to say the smaller. He can spread it out on the counter to the point they are no longer considered mixed, and each one is recognizable on its own. This will permit one to take the desired even long before the meal will begin. Similarly, one who has many different types of candies. There's many types of candies, and he wants to select from what he doesn't want, or he wants to select it early, right? So what can he do? He can spread out all the candies, and then he can do whatever he wants. There's no more mixture, right? So there's no more bor mixture. The whole issue of bor is when you have a mixture. If you do not have a mixture, then you don't have a bor situation, and you're fine. Now, how do you spread it out? Piskei Teshuvot says they should be spread out all at once and not one by one. Don't say, I'll put this one here, that one here, that one here. Take it and spread it all out. That's the way you have to spread it out. That's the Piskei Teshuvot. Okay. Fine. We're out of time. Is that the Shem? Next week we will continue in the Chod of Bor. אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר. תודה.